There's a generational issue, I think, at hand here with Joe Biden. Sometimes there's a cultural issue at hand. I remember famously Jimmy Carter at the opening of the JFK Library leaning over and kissing Jacqueline Kennedy on the cheek, who responded by saying a gentleman in the North, a gentleman does not kiss a woman in public or something like that. I forget. But it was this cultural difference. And maybe with Biden, it is a generational difference. But I do have a feeling that we're going to be watching candidates campaign far differently than they ever have before. Because, you know, when I ran, people wanted to hug me. Man, I hugged them. You know, and there was, you never thought anything twice about it. And in fact, those type of candidates that were, I mean, I never rubbed anybody's nose or kissed them on the back of their head on the campaign trail, but those type of candidates were actually seen as effective candidates that could connect with voters. Now you get the feeling the only safe thing to do if you're running for office is just like, hey, how's it going? And keep a safe distance. I'm not exactly sure what this development means, not only for Joe Biden, but also for campaigning in general.
Joe, the rules of politics are changing as they are for most things. I think it's important to listen to the women who were expressing something they didn't say at the time, which is that they were uncomfortable about Biden's behavior.
Right.
A New York Times columnist, Michelle Goldberg, said it, I thought, just right in the headline of her column this morning. He's not a sexual predator, meaning Joe Biden, but he's out of touch. And I think that the thing that may hurt Biden the most about the revelations that we're hearing is that there's so much about a politician from another school, you know, from those old touchy-feely days, put your arm around somebody, give them a hug, give them a kiss. That's the way politicians behaved, and it reinforces this sense we have that Joe Biden's a pretty old guy. And we have a younger country, a younger electorate, new ideas, new dynamics and tensions. So I think, for me, we'll have to sort through what's being alleged and what isn't. But the thing that's clear and that Biden can't escape is this: he's from a different generation, and is that what America wants right now?
Well, a different generation. It does underline how old he is, Mika. Also, things have changed. Even since he left the vice presidency, you know, 3-4 years ago, late night comics would show clips of him when he was swearing people in, and everybody would laugh, going, wow, look at Joe. And it wasn't like creepy Joe. It was just, you know,
joyous Joe who loved to hug and kiss mothers, brothers, kids. He's affectionate, and I'm just going to push back. And I know I put myself at great peril here. There could be more, whatever. More of what? I want to ask, because so far these two women have gotten national coverage for something they say was not sexual. So what was it? Affectionate, and they didn't like the affection? I don't know what line we're drawing here. And Katty K, you retweeted Karen Tumulty's piece that basically talks about how Biden needs to change his behavior, but the mob needs to cut it out too. And I'm worried about the mob here. Okay, this is not where Me Too wants to go, in my opinion. Maybe thousands of women will come forward and prove me wrong. I don't think so. And I don't think Me Too wants to take down viable candidates for being affectionate but not sexual in their contact with women. This is not the line we want to draw. This is not where the movement wants to go. It's the same as Me Too supporting the head of Time's Up until her son is questioned, until her son is put in a position where he has to defend himself. So you're only someone who supports the Me Too movement until it's your son or your husband who's needing to defend himself. You know, we're getting tied up in a knot here in terms of what we're doing and what we're against. And it's equal pay day. This all does come down to money. This comes down to our ability to be an equal in the workforce, to be an equal in society. But to be equal, we have to be on the side of right, and we have to support due process. And do we really, Katty K, you know Joe Biden, is this really where we want to go with Me Too?
Yeah, and Joe Biden has been a champion of women and, and women's legislation recently during his vice presidency, and he was there. I think there's a lot of complicated things here. Joe just talked about the fact that when he was out on the campaign trail, he did hug people. That's what politicians do. They kiss babies, they hug people, they shake hands. And most of the time, I think women can distinguish between a hug that feels completely non-sexual and appropriate and something that feels vaguely inappropriate, but sometimes they can't quite define why. And I think that's what these women are saying about Joe Biden. I also agree that a social movement like the Me Too movement has to become more sophisticated, more mature in its responses. And that's what I thought was interesting about Karen's piece, actually, was where she was saying, this is a movement that has to become mature in the way that it deals with past transgressions, and are there things that are seen as more extreme than the other? Because otherwise, if we're going to paint everybody, tar everybody with the same brush, then everybody is going to be kicked out at some point, and it's going to become a revolution that eats itself. So it has to be handled with much more nuance. And I think the other thing here is that Democrats can understandably, and you've seen the number of people that have rallied behind Joe Biden in the last 24 hours has been impressive, both from the Democratic and the Republican side. But Democrats understandably can look at this, the allegations against Joe Biden, and say, but hold on a second, we have a president in the White House who has said things that are far, far worse than this, and he got elected after that tape, that Access Hollywood tape came out. So how is this fine for Donald Trump? Perhaps even picks him up votes amongst some voters, but Joe Biden can't even perhaps launch his campaign because of allegations that are far, far different from the kind of thing that we've been talking about in the context of Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I think Karen Tumblety makes a really good point when she says Joe needs to knock it out. If he does, campaign, new day, new campaign trail, new reality.
I think that's sad.
But what's that?
I think that's sad. I think the next time I see Joe Biden, if he doesn't hug me and give me a kiss and hold my hand while we're talking to you, that's a new Joe Biden, and that's not the Joe Biden I knew. He's a nice guy. He's not a predator, and this is ridiculous. Let me just say it. This is ridiculous. It's completely, the whole thing has gotten, the conversation has gotten out of control. And Democrats and those on the left who want to tweet me today and go nuts and get all woke, you're eating your young, you're eating those who can beat Trump, you're killing the very people who have been pushing women ahead, who have been fighting for equal pay, who have been doing everything they can to respect women in their lives. And we're going to go after Joe Biden for being affectionate to women of all ages, to men as well. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't understand it. All right, still ahead. Today marks 6 months since Jamal Khashoggi was brutally murdered inside Saudi Arabia's consulate in Istanbul. We're going to be talking to David Ignatius about the state of U.S.-Saudi relations today. Also